watch this. He just now gets done feeding the 5,000, and the multitude is flocking him, and he's tired, and then he goes away to retreat. He goes away to retreat according to verse 23, and it said, and when he had sent the multitude away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. I want you to understand something, pastors and leaders. You can't hang around everybody all the time. Don't get offended when God, because let me tell you a secret. When God starts to take you to, I said it this morning, this afternoon, when God takes you to another level, he takes you off by yourself.
Yes. All right. Yes, Lord.
Because the only way that you can hear him is when you are by yourself.
That's right.
He takes him away from the crowd, from the multitude, and then the multitude, watch this. I've been waiting to do this all day. And so the multitude goes away, and he goes up into the mountain to pray all by himself with just between him and God. Now, I want you to get what's happening here, because now I want you to get it. The multitude was just with him. He just fed over 5,000 men, some 10,000 women and children, and they're just with him. And he sends them away, Minister Rod, and they go away. And he says, well, y'all get in the boat. And he said, I'll meet you on the other side. And he sent the multitude away. They get in this boat. Now, I want you to understand this. A storm rolls.
Yes.
Come on now.
Yes.
A storm arises while he's away praying.
Right.
Okay, you missed that revelation. I'm going to say it again. While he's away praying, while he's away hearing from God, a storm arises.
Yeah.
While he's trying to get to some place where he's quiet.
Yeah.
He's trying to get to some place to hear from God, but a storm arises.
Yeah.
All right.
Have you ever got to a place to hear from God? Have you ever got to a place of seeking God, and all of a sudden you get 1,000 distractions? You planned to fast that day, but all of a sudden every one of your children called and got a problem. You just get distractions. He finds himself in 23. He goes away, and he said he was alone there.
Yes, God.
Then it said, but the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary to and fro.
All right.
The wind was contrary. Now understand this. Dr. Thomas, he's in the middle of the sea. It'll be different if the storm came when I started.
All right.
Because then I can make the choice to turn around.
Come on.
It'll be different if the storm would have came when I started, because then I could have had an option to turn around and say, well, let me try it again tomorrow. But watch this. The storm happens while he's in the middle of the sea. While everybody's in the middle of the sea, the storm happens.
All right.
And so now they can't turn around. They can't turn around because they're too far from where they started. Faith Temple, don't you understand? There are often times where you in the middle of doing what God, watch this. He told them to go.
Yes, sir. Go to the other side. Yes, sir.
He told them to go, but watch this. He declared, he said, I will see you on the other side. I'll meet you there. But somehow in the middle of the going, there came a storm.
Come on.
And understand, somebody that was on the boat had to have a thought. Lord, we in the middle of this. Get this. Almost done. Turns around. He's in the middle. He's in the middle. and the storm comes. He's in the middle.
Yes, God.
Lord, pastor and people, if I'd have knew what I know now. The reason he didn't let me know when I started, because he knew I would quit.
Yes, sir. Come on.
See, they don't get it. Okay, I come to preach to y'all today. I ain't even, some of them still ain't gave an amen yet. Understand this. The storm came while he was in the middle.
Yes, sir.
In the middle of serving.
All right.
In the middle of doing what God said to do.
Yes, sir.
Which was to launch out.
Yes,
In the middle of serving, doing what God says, now then come a storm, and trust me, somebody on that boat thought to themselves, we should have stayed where we was at. You come on, listen. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to be for real. That in the process of you doing what God called you to do, listen, you get to a place where you go, you know what, this is for the birds. I don't even want to do this no more.
Amen. All right.
It's the truth.
All right.
If you ain't never said that and you are a leader, please tell me what you're doing so I can do that. They're in the middle of the sea. And your Rocklodon raises. The storm has a name.
Yes, sir.
The storm has a name. The storm has a name. The storm has a name. You can't rebuke that you don't call out. Quit playing with it, trying to juggle around with it, and call it what it is. Lust, fornication. The storm's got a name. Depression, oppression. The storm's got a name.
Yes, sir. Come on, you preaching, Doc. Come on.
Discouragement. Come on, it's got a name. Come on. Y'all right. It takes a whole nother turn sometimes, don't it? The Bible says, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. And whatever you loose on earth, it shall be loose in heaven. You better know what you bind and loose. He rebukes the storm. Now, okay, let me back up a little bit. So now watch this, because, and maybe some of y'all in here ain't in a storm. Maybe your life is just peachy and everything is cool and you ain't going through nothing this week, last month, last 2 months, last 4 months, and so forth and so on. But I come to encourage Faith Temple, and I want you to understand, my brother, Pastor Kugler, that oftentimes when you launch out because he tells you to, and you go, and in the middle of you going, a storm starts to arise that will make you second guess your journey. He comes out. Jesus, there's a storm. Now they said the boat was in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, so the wind was contrary. Now in the fourth watch, 12 midnight, Jesus went to them walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled and said, it is a ghost, and they cried out for fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them and said, be of good cheer. It is I, do not be afraid. You know what I realize for those of us that have gone through some things, even recently, and then you go through the season where you might doubt some stuff. He said, you look further in the text, he said, oh, ye of little faith, why do you doubt? Let me explain something to you. It amazed me, and I kind of thought about this thing. I said, wait a minute. They had just been with Jesus.
Come on now.
They had just fed 5,000. They've been with him all day long. when he walks out on the sea, they don't know who he is. How do you spend hours with God and when he shows up, you don't know who he is? How is it that you've been saved for 40 and 50 years and the presence of God is in the house, you still sit down? You don't know who he is?
Come on now. Yes, sir.
You just spent hours with him. And when he walks out on the sea, you don't know who he is. Pastor, the revelation came to me.
All right.
It don't matter how long you spend time with God. Sometimes when the storm comes, oftentimes when the storm comes, it's hard to recognize him in the storm. It's hard to recognize the face of God while in the storm. That's why when you're in the storm, you got to ask God, is this you? Now, mind you, they're in the middle of the sea, and then all of a sudden a storm occurs. And they start to have this level of fear. So in the middle of a storm, in the middle of the sea, the storm occurs. Jesus walks out, and then they wonder, Lord, is this you? Who is this? This is a ghost. They couldn't recognize him. They couldn't see his face because, watch this, it wasn't meant for them to see his face. It was meant for them to hear his voice. Because if you never see his face, you better recognize his voice.
That's it.
Then they think it's a ghost. They don't recognize him, but somebody by the name of Cousin Peter. Ear chopping Peter. How is it that the one who is the least saved after all of the saved folk that's on the boat, how come the one that... See, Pastor, you need a Peter by you every now and then. Because church folk will talk you out your blessing. Church folk will talk you out your... I don't think we should do that. I don't know. I think we should. No! The just shall live by faith.
Come on.
I know we ain't got the money, but God said do it. And if he said do it, he said go. I got to go.
That's it.
Feel my help now.
That's it.
I don't think we should. That ain't wise, Pastor. But you know God told you to do it.
That's it.
I'd rather follow God than man anything.
That's it.
God told me to do it. I'd rather do it. So Jesus said, if you go, I'll go with you. Open up your mouth and I'll speak for you. Lord, if I go, just tell me what to say. I don't want a boat full of religious folks because you're going to move. Sometimes it takes somebody with childlike faith